Join us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, where we discuss matters close to the heart. This and every Saturday at 8 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on HGG Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, alongside your co-host, Pastor Clive Atkinson, Bishop Hopeton Morris, and Elder Edmund Muir. The Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We're not just talk, we're informative. Good morning, and welcome to the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. Good morning to you, everyone. We're live here on HGG Radio. We are, of course, the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, where we provide you with information and we discuss matters that is close to the heart. We're live inside your home, inside the car, inside your studio, and I'm so delighted that you choose to join us this morning. And we have yet another great episode for you. Of course, I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, along with our co-host, Pastor Clive Atkinson, Bishop Hopeton Morris, and Elder Edmund Muir. You can listen to us live on HGG Radio via YouTube, Facebook, hggradio.ca, or by downloading our app at Higher Ground Gospel Radio, where at your Play Store or your App Store, wherever you get your applications from, please go there and type Higher Ground Gospel Radio. And of course, you can download our application there. You can also join the conversation this morning on our social media platform or by messaging us on WhatsApp at 825-343-7778. Again, you can message us on our WhatsApp at 825-343-7778. Good morning, gentlemen, and how are you this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And how is the weather there in Edmonton? To our colleagues over there in Edmonton, how is it going, Pastor? How is Edmonton?
Well, yesterday was plus 4, I believe. It was plus 4. It was slushy.
Edmonton is going on with things up there. It's
minus 40 last week, and it was plus 4 this week.
My Lord, that is amazing. Bishop, how is it in Montreal? Because you know Montreal can really kick up a storm when it's ready.
Yeah, good morning again, everyone. Montreal is not too bad today. We're about -1, so it's not too bad.
Not too bad. That's wonderful. Awesome. Wonderful. It seems like Toronto weather is really spilling over on you guys up there. So I'm really happy for that. Really happy to hear that it's not so. But Elder Muir, how are you? Are you able to go outside now? Because I know when it's cold, it's normally nice and sunny, I guess, on the inside, but cold outside.
Good morning. We are having great weather. The roads are a little bit, slushy and slippery at times, but we're having great weather now.
Wonderful. So, gentlemen, today we're talking about financial and insurance. That's what we're talking about today. And I trust that you are also excited about this episode. Of course, I want to find out from you, what is finance? When we talk about finance, like what does it mean to you? First thing come to mind when you hear finance and insurance. First thing come to mind.
The management of money.
Money, spending money.
That's the first thing. Not just money, but how you manage it.
How do you manage money?
How do you manage it? That's the first thing comes to me.
Awesome. Elamir, first thing come to your mind. Well, Pastor, I should have asked you insurance. First thing come to your mind when you hear about insurance.
Well, first thing come to my mind, insurance is to make sure that you're secure. You have an insurance to not just for home and for car, but also life insurance to make sure that you do not leave your family in any sort of debt, stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
Finance. First thing come to mind.
Finance. My wife is a finance.
I like that.
She managed the finance. She managed that.
Money management, money management.
Money management.
First
Awesome.
thing comes to my mind was my wife.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, but yeah,
And of
money management.
money management. Elder Muir.
Finance, I think about money, money. The moment you speak about finance, not necessarily management as Bishop would have it, but just money. And also, as it relates to insurance, I think about a safety net or a cushion,
Ah.
right? That's what I think about.
I like that word, safety net or cushion for insurance. Like that word. So I'm so glad we all, talking about finance and we're talking about insurance this morning because today we really want to discuss about finance. So finance can mean a lot of different things to people. When used generally, it could mean personal finance. It means stocks, investment. Economics, real estate, or it could even mean corporate finance. There's often overlap between the various type of finance, but there are certainly noticeable difference as well. And so today on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast, we want to discuss personal finances, and of course, we want to delve into insurance as well. We want to take a deep dive into that, and so the importance we want to talk about the importance of financial investment, having insurance, and striving to become financially stable. Joining us on the podcast to talk about it is our very special guest, Ron Walker, wealth manager at RBC Dominion Securities, and Devon Goldburn, regional leader in insurance for Primerica. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Morning,
Good
Dr.
morning.
Bryan. Morning,
Good
sir.
morning. Good morning.
Morning,
And
panelists.
welcome to the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. Come on, let's welcome our very special guest. Welcome. Yes, yes. Good morning and welcome. Welcome. I'm sure our listeners will be delighted to hear it this morning. We're going to start off with Ron Walker because we're going to talk about finance and we're going to talk about finance and investment in this morning. But I just want to let you know who Ron is. So Ron is backed by 20 years of experience in the financial service industry. He really enjoys working with clients to establish a roadmap for their financial goal. He has deepened his experience, expertise rather, in such previous role as financial planner, financial advisor, community wealth advisor. And so Ron is committed to having clients and their family care and implement a plan to achieve the financial future they envision. And so, with the support of an experienced team of network of financial professionals, he coordinates the implementation of practical, workable wealth management solutions. He's a big believer in continuing professional development, and so he has earned Chartered Investment Manager accreditation, personal financial planner, and responsible investment specialist designation, and completed many courses with the Canadian Securities Institute. So we know we're having somebody who is well versatile in this area. Ron Walker, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you very much, Dr. Bryan. That introduction does not sound like me. It sounds so glowing.
Yeah.
I must add, I do have tremendous respect for you. I remember the very first time we met, you walked into the branch wearing a Liverpool Football Club scarf. And I walked out to you to say, I think we cannot help you at this location. You need to go to another branch because I am a Chelsea fan.
Yes,
So I thank you very much for being the bigger man and inviting me on.
absolutely.
And,
I do recall.
and congratulations, you're number one in the league.
Yes.
Please do not mention it again for the duration of this interview.
I promise you, sir. I promise you. Except I'll just reiterate that Liverpool is currently number one right now. That's it. I won't say it again. Thank you so much. Ron, we want to talk about finance and investment and where better to go. I know you, of course, who is backed by so much years of experience. And so we want to talk about it broadly. When we said about finance investment, a lot of time, I think we, especially in our community, are not living our best life simply because not that we're not earning, but because we don't have proper financial management. How can you help us? Let's start talk about finance and what does that mean and how better we're able to better our lives when we understand how to manage our money better. Talk to us about that.
No, thank you so very much. So, as introduced, I'm a wealth manager at Dominion Securities. But when it comes to finance for me, It's normally a process involved in creating wealth and managing finance. And it starts with setting goals. So I'll just start with the broad topics. And, as the conversation continues, we can delve deeper. And the main thing is setting goals. Normally, people do not have a specific goal where they have a time frame on it or a cost associated with it or a priority attached to it. So it starts with just setting the goal, setting up your buckets, your short term, your medium term, and your long term. And that's generally the first step. The second step is doing a budget. And budgeting is a lot more complex than it sounds. And I would like to talk a little bit more about budgeting. But just for the sake of touching the general topics, we start by setting the goals, building a budget, and then another critical part is managing credit, because that is where we do lose a lot of wealth, and it's through how we manage credit and how we utilize the credit options that are available to us. Um, Making savings automatic, just setting for most people who work a regular job and get paid bi-weekly or monthly, just making automatic savings is a significant step forward into preparing for the future, because as you know, there's never enough money for the expenses of life. And if those savings do not automatically come out, we generally find other things to take care of first. Then staying informed, and staying informed could be, podcasts like yours, going on to reading books, finding an advisor, discussing it with qualified professionals who have solid information to give to you, and living beneath your means. Living beneath your means is very difficult at times. It sounds very easy, but it's one of the crucial ways of ensuring that there is access to prepare for the future. And last but not least, taking care of your health. We lose a lot of wealth by having very bad health practices, and then our doctor gets a lot more of our income, and our medical system gets a lot more of our income than our families and ourselves. And so those are some of the broad general topics to touch on when it comes to investing. Getting deeper into stocks or bonds or ETFs or so on is a whole different conversation, and is siloed inside of just investment management. But the overall concept of wealth management, these I'd say would be some of the main things to consider.
Thank you. I like managing credit. I like managing credit because I believe that's an area where oftentimes we lose out on managing our credit. I don't think sometimes we have proper credit management. Can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of managing our credit, and how can we do that? Some simple tips that how we can better manage our credit.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start with budgeting, but let's start with managing
All
credit.
right.
And I think budgeting is an important part of managing credit because of how we see money.
So we'll start there then, and we'll go
Yes,
to managing credit.
no worries. Thank you very much. Um, when I sit in a consultation, and I'm going to use an example, let's say I client earns $10,000 a month. They save $1,000 a month, and but their budget says their expenses say $6,000. Where did the rest of the money go? And that's what you do not see. You do not see the taekwondo additions. You do not see the cash payments in the school account. You do not see the takeout food, the Uber payment, all of those things that we do not write on a budget line. So I always, first of all, say whatever you earn minus what you save, and everything else is your expenses. And the first thing is people generally do not fully understand how much they spend. And for example, when I take up my statements, and we have a monthly board meeting in this house, and it's always surprising when you add up things like gas and just everything that's not upfront. So looking at that budget, having it written down is where you actually see what you spend. Because if you do not write it down, I guarantee you, of all the different donations that you make and contributions, and each time you stop to pick up a coffee and so on, you actually don't know how much money you spend. But to managing credit, which is crucial,
Mhm.
your worst enemy is your credit card. It is a great friend in building credit, but managing your credit card. Consider this. If you're buying something for $100 from your credit card and you're not going to pay the entire bill, please write that down as $120, depending on your credit card interest rate. It could be higher, it could be a little bit lower, but you are paying 20% credit on that card. So whenever you make a purchase, it's not a $100 purchase, it's a $120 purchase. So you want to pay that off first, and you want to shift your credit. If you must use credit, you want to shift it to lower cost credit. For those who have a line of credit, or people who have a home equity line of credit, if you own property and can use credit against it, that would be a lot cheaper. So that's one very crucial way of paying down credit, because your credit card will strangle you. And if it gets to a certain balance, you will continuously, if you're not in a high income bracket, you'll continuously just be paying credit card interest. So that's one key way of managing credit. Another one, for, let's say you have a mortgage and you're making monthly payments, a simple solution is just switching that to bi-weekly rapid payments. And what you're ending up doing is paying 13 months worth of payments in every 12-month cycle. So you're paying down that credit. In today's markets, a lot of us, we have jobs, we earn bonuses if we are self-employed. Sometimes we get bigger contracts than we expected. Making lump sum payments within each 12-month period also reduces your total interest cost. So those are some simple tips for managing credit.
Thank you so much, Ron. And if you're just joining us here on HGG Radio, we're talking about the importance of financial and investment. And of course, we're talking with Ron Walker from RBC Dominion Securities. And of course, you can join the conversation on YouTube and on our Facebook channel and at hggradio.ca. You can also WhatsApp us at 825-343-7778. If you have any question for Ron, you can always put it in the chat. And of course, we will get those answers for you. Good morning. Good morning to all our listeners. Of course, I see the Falconers from Jamaica join us very early. Thank you so much for joining us. Glenda Andrews over there in Atlanta. Thank you. My niece all the way in England. Good morning to you, Nicolee. Of course, Lady Irish and Jay Grizzle. Good morning, Sophie. It's good to see you on. Good morning. One person said they like the fact that you have a monthly meeting. They like that, a monthly board meeting in the house. They absolutely like that. Talk to us, Ron, about the importance of creating wealth and preserving wealth. So for those of us who maybe don't see investment as a thing right now, because to them investment may be persons who already have money. What about those of us who are medium, I'll say, income earners? We are not at the top of the chart. And so oftentimes persons who make maybe under 100K, 80, 60, don't see the importance of investing. And we want to talk to those who already have the money and they want to preserve those wealth. So we're talking about creating wealth and preserving wealth. Talk to us about that.
Yes, I really like that topic. Thank you very much, Dr. Bryan. Actually, when you look at bankruptcy filings, it's pretty highly populated with high-income people. And that goes back to how you manage spending. And those who consider themselves in the middle, who do not consider themselves high-income earners, those are the people who can actually build wealth very quickly. And let's start with one thing. With a simple thing, make savings automatic. If you're employed to a corporation or a company that has a pension plan, maximize your contributions. So you start, I just want it to be simple steps. First, maximize your contributions. 2, read that pension statement at the end of each year and actively participate. Ask questions, change the type of investments it's in, but participate in that pension process. And make automatic contributions directly from your pay to an account. Yes, things are expensive and expenses will never go. It doesn't matter how much your income goes up, the expenses continue to come. So just make automatic contributions. And once you start making those automatic contributions and seeing it grow, then with advice, with a good advisor, with good information, you can pick the type of investments that last long. I want to just state one piece of math that those of us in the investment business are very familiar with. And just pick any number. So for example, pick $5,000. If you save $5,000 a year between when you're 25 and 35 years old, and you stop when you're 35, just 10 years. So you've put away $50,000. You will have the same amount of money as the man who started when he was 35 years old and saved the same 5,000 a year all the way to retirement. And that's just the time impact. So the next thing would be start now. It doesn't matter what the expenses look like. It doesn't matter what you have to start with. Start now. Next thing, for those of us who live here in Canada, there are many things we can take advantage of. And let's say you have kids preparing them for university, you must take the free 20% addition from the government in an education savings plan. So you just make that automatic, whether it's $25 a month, $100 a month, 500 is a little high. It's a little bit over the max. But whatever you can do automatically to take advantage of those additions that come from the government, utilizing an RSP when it makes sense so that you reduce your tax burden, utilizing a tax-free savings account so that the money that you earn on top of your investments is not taxable. All of these will help you. If you have a child or a member of your household with a disability, extraordinary registered disability savings plans and wonderful government matching amounts that you can discuss much in more details. So these are some simple ways of increasing your income. And one last thing, treat windfalls as if it's not there, whether it's an inheritance or a bonus at the end of the year or massive commissions. Treat it as if it's not there. Live off your income and put away additional amounts of monies. And then eventually, having created wealth, you get rid of the things like anxiety. Remember, you will work for about 30 to 40 years out of your life, but you will also be retired for about 30 years of your life. If you're healthy, you maintain good health, you will continue to live for another 30 years after retirement. And you will get a lot of peace of mind from having properly prepared for that. Now, I know on the insurance side, thank God we have somebody here from the insurance side because we work very closely with them. Insurance is an extraordinary vehicle for creating wealth if you do not have that lump sum to put down, whether it's to protect your family while you're alive. I don't want to step too much over on the other side. We work very closely with our insurance partners, or it's just to prepare for the next generation. I'll leave that out. But that is a tremendous vehicle for creating wealth.
Awesome. To our panelists, question for Ron. And then we'll go to our listeners who have some question in the chat. Panelists?
I know that a lot of persons, because they, when you talk money, they kind of feel, I don't work enough money to put away. They sort of feel as if that, this is not for me. Sometimes they don't want to stop to say, you know what, let me just listen and figure out how I can do it, because money is just sound too scary to them because of where they are financially. But it's just a matter of just to be able to sit down and to be able to listen and to be able to put it together, and you'll be surprised to see the very money that you think that you're not getting enough of once you start to manage it and start to structure it. So my question to Ron is, how can a person who don't think they have enough to be able to start by putting away something?
Yeah. So thank you very much for that question. So it's very intimidating. I used to be with the credit union, and now I'm in wealth management on Bay Street. So excuse me, there's this perception, and when I do approach people, and as Lincoln mentioned, people from particular communities, the retort is, I'm not big enough to deal with people like you, and it's generally, let's have a conversation. And when you sit down to have that conversation, it starts with that budget. And then the budget shows you how much wealth you have. And then when I was doing sales and I was on the road and I realized that I spent $700 a month on gas, that is tremendous wealth just being blown away into the air. $700. And if you do not write it down and have a column and track every single purchase, you do not realize how much wealth. So I disagree that there is no wealth there. If you have income, there's wealth to be accumulated. And that's why I start with automatic payments. Because if you get that salary, there is something to pay for. There is kids soccer, there's competitive sports, there's dance for Brian, there's and those things are expensive. But that automatic deduction from your salary is a solid start for building wealth and talking to somebody who can help you just put that budget together. And then you can say, okay, geez, I really didn't realize that we do Uber Eats 5 days a week. I thought it was just occasionally that there's Uber Eats, but I see 21 Uber Eats orders for the month. And that budget helps you to find all of that wealth that you got rid of. And sometimes we just live above our means. And maybe we can do a local vacation versus an international vacation. And that's where those things come in. Maybe we really don't need 30 pairs of shoes, and you probably only need about 6 pairs of shoes. I mean, it's there is wealth there, and it's about being open to having that conversation. I do know there is a lot of trepidation in writing it down because it becomes real and you see it. So people do not like writing it down because they have an idea that they're cash flow negative because they see it every month. They kind of spend about $500 more than they make every month. And at the end of the year, they're about 6,000 in the hole year after year, and they're afraid to confront that. But you just have to confront that and then attack it.
Thank you so much, Ron. El Amir, you have a question for
Yes,
Ron.
I do. I do. I am. You have addressed my question really, but I'm thinking about retirement as well because you mentioned that we have like 30 years uh, of retirement, and I'm thinking, then what's the retirement age?
Yes, you will retire at around 60 to 65 and you will live till about 90 to 95.
My aunt in the chat, my aunt says that we live in Jamaica 5 or 10 years after retirement.
Well, we've seen that, right? We've seen it. So,
Oh, God.
well, but then again, I found myself in a situation before where when I tried, my wife and I, when we tried to do the budget, we realized that we're spending way more. We cannot do a budget. And then we just decided, you know what, we're not going to do a budget because anytime we do this, it's stressful. What do you say to persons like us?
Let somebody help you. Let somebody do it for you. So my wife and I, we do it together because and there's a little bit of what would you say, clandestine operations while we do it because not every single thing is disclosed even in those board meetings each year. Because I do see the Amazon packages quite a bit. I mean, my wife is pretty good with money, but the packages do come. They come a lot. However, you want to see it, and let's say retirement is your thing. You just need a goal. So you start with a goal. Okay, I want to retire. Okay, this is what and when you sit to do a financial plan, a planner will be, okay, this is what your pension will look like. We have extraordinary projection tools. This is what your pension will look like. This is the lifestyle that you want to live. This is where CPP and OAS will bring you in at. And we go through different elements and say, okay, to hit this goal, we're looking at $300 a month from now till your target date. Or to hit this goal, you have to start doing some investing. Your savings account is not doing it. You need a higher rate of return. And then we start adjusting those things. And once you have adjusted them and you have a target, then you have something working towards. Another thing I don't want us to ignore is the value that we have in our real estate. If it's a part of your estate and you just plan to have it to leave it for the kids to give them a solid start, that's fine. But if you have a big house and you plan to downsize later, you want to also factor in disposing of the real estate, which is what happens with a lot of my clients. Their kids are mature and working. They dispose of the huge house with the stairs, and they get a condo or they live in a low rise or a townhouse, and then the excess funds becomes a part of their retirement savings.
Thank you so
One
much.
final
Yeah,
question.
go
Right,
ahead,
one
sir.
final question. What do you say to a 50-year-old who has no savings and only liabilities? 50-year-old.
Yes. So you want to look at their income first. You want to know what income bracket they're in, and if they do have liabilities, the types of liabilities, because that person may want to start with getting rid of credit, and or we want to look at, if they're not business for self, you want to look at what they've done in terms of contributions to their pensions, because they may be in a better position than you thought. I remember sitting down with a medical professional, and they just didn't think they had any savings, and they had been a nurse for 30 years. And when we looked at the pension statements, I was like, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be okay.
Thank you so much. We're gonna go to the chat. I know you like this conversation, but unfortunately, Ron is not able to be with us all day. We'll see how long we can keep him. But we're gonna go to the chat. Good morning again to everyone that is joining us live, and I see you in the chat. Sophie Miller said, "Blessings, men of God." Keith, we greet you there in Montreal. That's the brother of Philip. Or early host, let's say, not late, but our early host there. Someone here said they like the board meeting. Good morning to my aunt in Jamaica again, Mahalia, and also Trisha Brown. I see you, Valsina Tanis. Good morning, all the way in Antigua. So we are spreading wide this morning. And so Karen also has a message in the chat. And she's saying, for those of us who live in the Caribbean, where and what we can invest in. And then we're going to go to Sophie. She has a couple of questions. So for those in the Caribbean, where and what they can invest in. Are there products within the banks there that they can invest in? What would you recommend, Ron?
So, recommending a particular investment really depends on the risk tolerance of the individual. So, I'll just start with a caveat. However, in general, the Caribbean has some very developed capital markets, solid stock exchanges, some very good finance houses that do this. So, you kind of want to find a trusted advisor. That's where you want to start, and you want to just look at building a properly well diversified portfolio. And that portfolio can include many things. It can include stocks, it can include fixed income, it can include real estate. Just as long as you have your three buckets sorted out: short, medium, and long. Don't have your real estate in your short bucket, because if you need to sell quickly and you need cash, it might not happen. But as long as you have had it well thought out, we have some great opportunities there. Many companies constantly going public. There, you have the currency exposure, but there are some wonderful opportunities once you sit with a reputable, because we've had our issues, a reputable financial institution with getting some solid advice. There are opportunities there for saving. And the same principles apply: automatic savings, doing a budget, all of those general principles apply wherever you are. But if you have a Canada permanent residency, we can talk.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ron. The chat is blowing up. They have so much questions for you. One other question from Sophie Miller. Thank you for your question, Sophie. She said, what are your thoughts on a TSFA compared to just HISA, which is high interest saving account?
Okay. So the HISA is a product, a high interest savings account. Your tax-free savings account is the vehicle. You can put anything inside of your tax-free savings account. So inside your tax-free savings account, you can have a HISA. You can have stocks, you can have bonds, you can have mutual funds, you can have ETFs. The benefit of having your HISA inside of a tax-free savings account is that the interest or whatever you earn on it will not be taxable. And so it's just a solid tax planning solution.
Thank you so much. So in other words, the TSFA operate as a bulletproof vest to your HISA. So nothing will touch that. So she also has a question. What are your thoughts on TGSA versus the high interest savings?
The
TGSA.
That is the...
Can you confirm that? Sophie, 1 second. So she's asking, which is more beneficial, TFSA or HISA? Well, of course, we know that TSSA, yes, is much better based on your answer. Thank you so much, Sophie. I trust that we have clarified that. And she said, regarding the saving, please don't touch her shoes. So good morning to you, Merrick Myrie. Thank you for joining us. C. Williams said, good morning. My question, if you have $500,000 in your wealth building opportunity, is there a wealth building opportunity to negotiate a return? if you have $500,000?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Good morning to you as well, Simone Brown Asker. I think this is from Antigua. Good morning. And I think your question was answered in terms of best ways to invest in the Caribbean. She asked that my niece in England, good morning, Chile. She said, what if you're young in your 20s? What would you do to ensure the best financial future? What path would you take?
Immediately start making automatic contributions. If you're 25 and you look at your retirement age, you sit with a planner. The amount that you need to save versus somebody in middle age is it is significantly lower. I was trying to find a better a term for you. Somebody at 25 years old may need to save $100 a month, where somebody in their middle age may need to save $1,000 a month. It's you just have a lot more time. You can take a lot more risk. You can manage a lot more fluctuation with a long runway ahead of you than somebody that is older. So absolutely meet with an advisor and start saving.
Thank you so much, Ron. Good morning to you, Stacy and Gentle. She said, thank you for this content. Blessing my son listening. Good morning, Gene Wignall over there in New Jersey. Thank you for joining us as well. And of course, Sophie seemed to be well pleased with her answers. Thank you so much. Apostolic Generation said, greetings, have $1,000,000. What is the best way to invest? Apostolic, and we'll take this as a final question for Ron. Ron, Apostolic Jesus Generation has a question. They have $1,000,000. What is the best way to invest?
The best thing to do is to call me. Anyways, when you have $1,000,000, you have the benefit of being very well diversified, and a million is a nice round number. It gives you an opportunity to take advantage of all of the different things that are going on in the society. You can look at the different sectors that investment opportunities are in, and you can move through from looking at your utilities, looking at infrastructure, looking at tech. You can go right across the spectrum and then you can deploy those funds across a well diversified portfolio that can be really bulletproof. You can actually mimic the investment style of people like Canada Pension Plan and so on when you have $1,000,000, just because of how well diversified you can be geographically, based on industry sector. You can do very well with that kind, and you can negotiate your fees too with $1,000,000.
$1,000,000. Thank you so much for that question, Ron. Bishop, do you have a question for Ron before we go?
Yes. Good morning again, Ron. Yeah,
Good
just want
morning.
to find basically as you talk about budgeting, um not everybody is financially kind of savvy, but I'm sure there are places that you can go to download spreadsheet, budget sheet, and so on, where they can go, that they can print and use it. Just want to ask if you could talk a little bit more about this, where they can go to get that kind of info.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love RBC Mido because that's where I'm from. But if you just go to be totally general and generic, excuse me, if you just go into your browser and just type budgeting tool, and you follow it, you put what is coming in and you list everything that's going out, and this is more of a mindset change than an actual activity. It's about approaching it with an open mindset and stop judging yourself. Um, we take too much time saying, okay, I haven't started, I haven't done enough, I haven't done well, I spent way too much money, and we spend enough time beating up ourselves. But it really does require a mindset shift to just say, okay, let's just get the facts out there and I'll deal with my feelings later over a glass of wine. You I'm not encouraging drinking, um, and you put that in, whether you want to. We use an Excel spreadsheet because the budgeting app just did not exactly do what I wanted it to do, and I like to control it, but budgeting apps are excellent. And you just put in what is coming in, and it's generally just your income, and being diligent in listing your spending, being honest. You don't have to share it. You can just give your partner the number. You don't have to share every item, but just being diligent and being honest about it, and you will see it. And I guarantee you, there is so much fluff in our budget, and you never realize until you do it. And then you realize how much fluff is in your budget, because my budget really hits me in the face every month. I've been doing it for years now, and it always hits me every time.
Thank you so much, Ron. Pastor, you good? Bishop, you good?
Yes, I'm good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
awesome. Greetings to you as well, Elder Robinson, all the way there in the UK. We're so glad to have you joining us. We're going to take the two final questions. We have about 5 more minutes with Ron. He has to go. We got to move on. So we have a next question. Said, what are the best way? I guess we have to do a part two, Ron. What are the best way to invest in the USA with bad credit? So I think investment overall, wouldn't you
Mhm,
say, would be similar,
mhm.
but I'll later on take this. What are the best way to invest in the USA with bad credit? Ron, you have 5 minutes to answer about two questions and then tell us where we can find you. So what's the best way? And I'll give you the next question.
Yeah, absolutely. So the US is one of our most developed markets. What you want to do is you want to be making those automatic contributions. If you work, your IRA is a very good place to be putting money in. You want to also go to an advisor, and you want to make those automatic contributions, and they have a very developed ETF market, and you can pick based on what suits your risk tolerance and your time horizon, and just make those automatic contributions. Excuse me. If you have bad credit, well, I'm not going over to the credit side, just the investment side. Automatic contributions into the with an advisor in the equity markets is your best play.
Thank you so much, Ron. The final question, how much money do you think an individual need to save over their work lifetime to retire comfortably in Canada and to maintain a lifestyle that a six-figure income affords while working, sorry.
Okay, so a lot of numbers have been thrown out. 1.7 million is the number that is going around on the internet a lot. That's It is dependent on the lifestyle that you're looking for. Now, there is a basic rule of thumb in the industry, and it is the 20 times rule. And let's say, for example, if you want to live off $50,000 a year in retirement, you want to have 20 times that at retirement. So that would be $1 million. So
Thank you.
you
Yeah, go
want to
ahead.
have 20 times the amount at retirement.
20 times the amount at retirement.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you
which
so
you need
much.
per annum.
And
Yeah.
a quick question is stock market a good investment? Yes,
Dep-
no. Go.
depends on who you are. For some people, it is not appropriate. The volatility and the fluctuations. If your investments causes you to not sleep at night, it is not for you.
So would we
However, over the long term, nothing else does better over a long stretch. If you're looking more than 5, 10 years, you will be better off having a properly diversified stock portfolio
say it depends on your risk tolerance
and time horizon.
and time
If
horizon?
you're saving to pay for a house next year, do not look at the stock market.
No, no. Stock market now is Ron. Just before you go, we have 2 minutes with you. Take a minute to talk to me about the interest rate right now in Canada. I know it's at the fingertip. It is at the mouth of everybody. Everybody is talking about it.
Yes.
What is the trend? What do you see? Let's talk about recovery. Long-term persons have investment, and investment fluctuate. We're talking about the rate right now and how the rates are. Talk to me about what are we seeing economically? What are the economics pointing at
Yes.
before you go?
Yes. So over the past couple of years, we had a lot of interest rate increases, and that's affected everybody that has credit. Excuse me. And there's a lot of expectation that rates will start coming down later on this year. However, even if they do, it will not be fast enough. Most mortgages, the biggest impact will be people having mortgage renewals. A bulk of our mortgage renewals at the new high rates are going to be some this year, most next year, and 2026, 24, 25, and 26. We'll see the bulk of mortgages maturing at these very high rates. And what that will mean is a much higher monthly mortgage payment. And so it is now a time to start planning for that. And let's start with assuming a worst case that rates will not go down very much. They probably go down a 0.5% or 1%. The best bet is to prepare for it not going down too much, and then starting to adjust your spending to facilitate that increase in your mortgage rate. What some people are doing, what some of my clients with excess cash are doing, they're making lump sum payments to their mortgage so that when their renewal comes around, their payments will not be more than what they're used to. So, to answer the question, your biggest impact is going to be the change in your mortgage payments and your line of credit rates. So, preparing for that, sitting down with your advisor saying, okay, if rates do not change, what will my new mortgage be? And then start preparing for that. These are painful emotional journeys to do your budget, look at the pain, to anticipate what the next mortgage payments are going to be. It's like kind of purchasing the stress from now. But I see it as preparing for the future, and dumping those bonus checks to reduce credit. And the budgeting, it goes right back to budgeting. I'm anticipating that the new rates have hit you and changing your budget accordingly.
Thank you so much, Ron. We'll definitely do a part two with you, Ron. Just before you go, where can we find you? Where can we find you? Give us some information. Listeners are on and they need to know where we can find Ron. Give us
Yes.
some information.
416 974 8393. That's 416 974 8393. If you type Ron Walker RBC, you will go to my website. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just look for Ron Walker RBC, and you'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find my website for my wealth management team on Bay Street. And if you do not get to me immediately, you'll get to my associate, and we will get back to you within a day. Anybody reaches out on a day, they get a response within that day.
Thank you so much, Ron. So you can find Ron on Bay Street in Toronto, or you can call him at 416-794-8393, or you can find him on
974.
LinkedIn. Do I have it right? 416
974.
974-8393. Thank
Yes.
you so much. You can also find him on LinkedIn. For those who are on LinkedIn, the business website, you can type Ron Walker, and you can, of course, find Ron. Ron, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Anman Empowerment Podcast. We have to give Ron a
Thank you.
hand clap for coming through. Yes, thank you so much, Ron. And of course, the listeners really enjoy this morning, and we're delighted to have you. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll definitely contact you for a part two. So if you really enjoy that with Ron, I want you to type in the chat. Let us know how much, of course, what the discussion mean to you and what was your takeaway this morning. You need not to go far, because we are just going to be going to talk about insurance. And just in case you're just joining us, we're talking about financial and investment and also insurance here on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. The time here is 10:48 if you are on the Eastern Standard Time, and 8:48 for those on Mountain Standard Time. Of course, you're listening to HGG Radio, number one for gospel in Edmonton. And of course, you're joining in to the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, of course, talking with us this morning also is Devon Goldburn, and we're going to talk about insurance this morning. And so Devon Goldburn has been in insurance for over 20 years. So he's been working in the financial service industry for over 20 years. He's a licensed life and A&S insurance agent with Financial Service Regulation Authority of Ontario. He is registered with the Ontario Securities Commission to market investment products such as mutual funds, segregated funds through PFSL Investment Canada Limited. He's a member of the Mutual Fund Dealers Association of Canada, and he'll be talking to us this morning about the importance of insurance. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Devon Goldburn. Good morning, Sir Goldburn. Good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Dr. Bryan. How are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure our listeners, they are loving this podcast. And this morning, we want to talk to you about insurance. Insurance, what first thing come to mind? Talk to us.
So let me first say greetings again to you, sir, Dr. Bryan, and to Pastor Clive for this platform. God bless you, man of God. HGG Radio.
Yes.
Praise God, and to the other panelists, Bishop Houghton Morris and Edmund Muir. And for everyone on the line this morning, I want to say, first of all, I mean, I'm so grateful to you all for this platform. I think it is so needful, and someone had to take the baton and run with it as it relates to getting this most important topic out to the body of Christ. We just had what's the gentleman name that just did the
Ron Walker. Yes.
Ron Walker. Now, speaking about investment, and I don't think we do enough of these kinds of things in the body of Christ, Dr. Bryan, and to all the other panelists. And again, grateful to you for bringing this to the forefront, bringing awareness to the body of Christ, because this is so important. So you asked me, Dr. Bryan, what comes to my mind when it speaks about insurance. Now, insurance, life insurance, I'm going to speak only on life insurance. I mean, there's many different aspects of insurance. So we're talking about life insurance. Now, I mean, it is so important, it is so vital that we all have an understanding of life insurance. And let me say this, life insurance is a very simple subject. We in the industry, or folks in the industry, complicate the matter. Now, when it comes to insurance, I think it was, I don't know if it was Elder Clive or Pastor Clive, or was it Bishop Morris that mentioned about insurance as a security net and as a safety net, somebody said. So as it relates to insurance, all that is what we want to know is that insurance is to protect your income. Now, if I ask anyone on the line, what is the greatest asset? You would say probably a house, which is, you know, most people would say that, majority of the people would say that. But how about your ability to make an income? How about your ability to make an income? If you lost the ability to make an income, then what happens to the house? So life insurance is so important to take care of that aspect if anything should happen. And furthermore, let me say this about insurance again. I'll repeat it. It is a very simple subject, but we complicate it. Now, a question was asked one time when we brought another insurance professional into our church. And the question was asked, do we deal with estate planning? That's the question that was asked of the individual that was doing the seminar. And I love his response. Because when the question was asked about how many people had life insurance and so on, and first of all, we have a church of almost 300 people, 300 and something if everyone is there. And 25 people showed up, even though we marketed it for a long time. But only maybe 25 people showed up. And the question was asked, do we deal with estate planning? And the answer that was given, Dr. Bryan, was, what are we talking about estate planning if we don't even have most of the folks like you? I think it was you that asked a question earlier about folks in the middle class or so on. And if we don't even have life insurance, how are we going to, life insurance will give us an instant estate, but if we don't have it, what are we talking about estate planning? So life insurance is so vitally important. And again, the final thing that I would say as it relates, I mean, I can talk to us about the ins and outs about insurance, but the next thing I would say about life insurance is we don't understand the importance of life insurance until someone passes away. Mm-hmm. And then when someone passes away, we have to go do a GoFundMe. We have to go to the church. We have to say, bury me, and the church says, well, we don't have the funds to do it. Then what do we do? So I it's not something that I would love to do. As a matter of fact, all those years I've been working in insurance part-time and then full-time and over the years, and when you add them all up, all those years, I've only paid one death claim. I'm glad for that. But you wouldn't understand the difference it makes when you have to walk in there with a check for $400,000. You say, well, here, now not only can you bury your dead or your loved one, but now you can take care of those that are left here. So again, insurance is only two types. There's only two types of insurance. There is term life insurance, which is just insurance protection only. And for the majority of people, maybe 99% of the people, that is always or usually the best insurance for people. Now, the other type of insurance is what we call cash value life insurance. And that takes in whole life, universal life, variable life, whatever life you want to call it. But that bundles insurance with investment or savings. And we should never, ever, 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 ever bundle them.
So thank you so much. Panelists, you have a question for Devon Goldburn before we go in about insurance, the importance of insurance. So while the panelists are getting their questions, yes, Pastor Bishop.
Yes, amen. God bless you, Reverend Devon. God bless you. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for coming on this morning. Yeah, I want to talk. Don't know if you could talk a little bit about life insurance in terms of, for example, when you buy a property, the bank will offer you a life insurance for that property. Um, is that a wise thing to do, or is it better and more beneficial if you buy a life insurance um, um, uh, different from your bank to cover the costs and the coverage for your and the rather the risk for your home?
Excellent question, Bishop Morris. Excellent question. I'm glad you asked it. I'm glad that was one of the first questions that you asked. Now, the experts will tell you, and I'm going to give you a great resource. You can go on DaveRamsey.com. You can go on YouTube and find anything about insurance. He'll tell you Susie Armand. All the experts will tell you. But to your question, Bishop, see, now let me ask this question. So when you go to the bank and you buy a property and they tell you need to buy mortgage insurance, who's the beneficiary? I'm asking anyone. Who's the beneficiary?
Bank.
Thank you, sir.
The bank.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, so you go to the bank and you buy a property, and you're paying, the property is 500,000 for argument's sake, and so you're paying $100 just for easy calculation for the mortgage insurance. And so the mortgage insurance covers the mortgage. So if the mortgage is 500,000 that you owe, that's what it covers. So now 10 years later, your mortgage is down to, just say for argument's sake again, 300,000. Well, you're still paying that amount, but you don't have $500,000 worth of mortgage anymore. Now, so you continue to pay and you continue to pay, and then when you die, they take it and they pay off the house, whatever. To your point, if you were to buy good term life insurance, say $1 million, just for argument's sake, and so when you die, and we wouldn't necessarily, and most people would not necessarily to tell you to pay off the house right away. You could do different things, as Ron was saying earlier, as it relates to investments, which would bring you farther ahead. But you could do that if you want. But when you have the life insurance, you pay off the debt, and you still have, if you were to do that, you still have 500,000 left. So all the experts will tell you, do not buy mortgage insurance. And I'll tell you this: if you have, the only way I would recommend that people buy mortgage insurance is if you had really, really poor health and you had no other choice. But if you're in good health and you can get life insurance, get life insurance. There is you can probably go to Canada Marketplace. This was CBC Marketplace. It was a number of years ago, just to add to your question, Bishop. And this truck driver. So one of the things that we do in insurance is, so when you come to us to buy life insurance, we will do what we call an underwriting process up front. So we'll go through all the medical questions, and you better answer them correctly, because if you lie on the application, then you might not get paid. So, but mortgage insurance, for the most part, what they do is they just sell you the mortgage insurance. Now, hear what I'm saying carefully. Hear what I'm saying. So if you go to the marketplace, it'll tell you about the insurance. This gentleman bought mortgage insurance, and he was a truck driver. And so the underwriting is done afterwards. I mean, and I will say this without apology, the life insurance industry, which I work in, I mean, it's the most criminal element. I'm telling you, it is. Last week I heard Pastor Clive, and he says, let's not mince words with this, let's just tell it like it is. So the life insurance industry is like a cutthroat industry. So the gentleman bought the mortgage insurance, and when he died in a truck accident, Bishop Morris, when he died in a truck accident, because it was a truck and his wife was at home, staying at home, taking care of their 4 children. When he died in that truck accident, the company did not pay. So that's why it came to CBC Marketplace, because they were trying to, the industry watchdogs were trying to expose the corruption in the industry. So what happened was, they didn't pay him because when they did the underwriting after the fact, think about that. After the fact, they found out that he had high blood pressure and he had some other medical issues, so they would not pay. So to your question, buy good life insurance, term life insurance, which is much more beneficial to you and to your family than to go buy mortgage insurance.
Thank you, Elder. So what I'm hearing is it's better for us to, instead of buying the insurance that the bank will offer you, to buy an insurance coverage outside of what the bank offers. Because of course, if you buy a coverage for $1 million, even if your house have $300,000 remaining on your mortgage and you should die, you'll still get that $1 million for the term for which you have purchased. So in other words, that is the best way to buy your insurance, because he's saying some of the insurance company, of course, will try to find all different stuff to disqualify you from that. So that's one of the best insurance. That's the insurance I have, that coverage, just to make sure that everything is covered should the Lord call me home and I move on to glory. We have a question from Sophie Mellon. She said, do you recommend reducing life insurance coverage as you age, and your children age and your mortgage get paid down? We have about 29 minutes in the show. We were trying to get as much as we can in. So she's asking, Rev, do you recommend life insurance coverage as you age and as your children age and your mortgage get paid down? Do you recommend reducing it?
And that's a good question again. Now, so, I want to touch back on something that we had mentioned earlier. And I would like to say, as it relates to retirement, and this will tie into the question that Sophie's asking, as it relates to retirement, if we understand the as Ron was saying earlier about investments and insurance, then we'll understand that, and if we take advantage of it, then we'll understand that retirement is not a function of age. It's a function of money. Because to Sophie's question, if you have $1 million in the bank, you don't necessarily need life insurance. However, life insurance it's a tax-free benefit to you. So when you get that, you don't have to pay taxes on it. So if you have it, it's good. Now to the question, we have what we call in our company, we call the theory of decreasing responsibility, to answer the question directly. So the theory of decreasing responsibility says you need more life insurance. So most of the experts recommend like a good 20, 30, 40-year term. Now, if say for instance, you're just married and you're 25 years old, then I would recommend that you get like a 35-year term. But in that time, so you buy the high insurance when your children are young, high debt as it relates to mortgages and so on and so forth. And then, so now, when I said that it's a function of money and not age. So while your insurance is high and you're young, you also start your investment plan. So as your insurance increases and your insurance portfolio increases, then the need for life insurance decreases. So when we reach, say, 70, 80, and you have $1 million, $2 million in your account, then you don't need that much life insurance. So start out with high life insurance. Now, again, some people would want to keep that because remember, when you die, you don't pay tax. You don't pay a death tax. That's also important. You must know that. So you have to file your final tax and you got to pay. So life insurance for a lot of people will help them to do that. So to Sophie's question, yes, when you grow older, you can decrease it if you want. Some folks choose to continue because it's cheap.
Thank you so much. So he has answered that question. Which is the best insurance, short-term, long-term insurance, or does it depend really on your situation, Reverend?
Well, very good question again. These are all very good questions. So we talk about short-term, long-term. See, again, and that could tie into the question that Sophie asked again. So insurance, if you're, like I said, the theory of decreasing responsibility, if you start up with high insurance, and you find because your investment is growing so well, you don't need it. You don't need to have it. So let's say, for instance, I would suggest for anyone Some folks talk about short term. They might say buy a 10-year term or 15-year term and so on and so forth. I would not recommend anyone to buy like a 10-year term and start out like that and say they're starting short term and doing that. What we would recommend and what most experts recommend is 20 and up. And the simple reason for that is when you're young, insurance is cheap. So if you're young and you buy insurance, like let's say a 35-year term, just for argument's sake, you don't have to change that term for the duration of the 35 years. So you're paying $20 a month for 35 years while you're saving in a good mutual fund, which Dave Ramsey would recommend to any one of us. So to the question, midterm, short term, buy the highest term that you can get, especially when you're young, because when you're old, you're not going to get that high term anyhow. So when you're older, like 60s, 70s, you might only get maybe a term to 100 or a 10-year term. Depends on if you can afford it, which at that age becomes very, very expensive. So to the question, take the longest term possible that you can get and then save, which is cheaper, especially at that young age, and then you can save somewhere else.
Thank you. I'll go to this question and then I'll come to our panel, to our co-host. So why not, somebody said, why not bundle the insurance, sir? Not sure if you said that earlier.
No, sir. So let me explain that. And I'll use a simple banking rule. So let me ask this question to that person who's asking the question. If I were to say to you, you take your money and you bring it into my bank, right? And I were to say to you, well, for the first 1 to 5 years, you'll have zero money in your account, right? Now we're people of God, so let me finish and then I'll ask you what you think you should do. But for the first 1 to 5 years is zero in your account. So let me just stop here and say this. The reason why I got into this industry, in 1987, a young man came to the house when we were living in the projects, came to the house, and my mother. So this gentleman came and told me about this company and said about insurance and talked about. So then I started looking into it. So I asked my mom what kind of policy she has, and I want you to hear what I'm saying very carefully. So my mom had an insurance policy, and she was paying $50 a month, and she had $25,000 in coverage. For the first 27 years, people have got, I just said for the first 1 to 5, for the first 27 years, there was zero in the cash value, $0 in the cash value, $0 for the first 27 years. And so it became a crusade for me. And so I said, well, if these people can be out there robbing people and ripping them off the way they're doing, 27 years, not 1 red cent in the cash value. And so I took it on myself. It became a crusade, not about selling life insurance, because it's not about that for me. It's about righting an injustice, correcting an injustice, righting a wrong. So that was my mother. And you know what the guy said to me when he came? He said, sir, you don't understand. I wasn't saved then. And you know what I said to him? And I knew it was dark and it was in the ghetto we were living. So I said, my brother, I said, you see it's getting dark out. I said, you better leave now. I said, you better leave now before it gets really, really dark. Don't tell me I don't understand. I said, where did all that money go for the first 27 years? Where? So to the question, I'm coming to the question about the bundling. And so I say to you, first 5 years, zero in your account. And then I say to you, I'm going to give you between 1% and 4% as a rate of return on your investment, right? Where if we look in Canada since 1931, the average rate of return in Canada has been almost 10%, and in the United States 11%. So 10% Canada, 11% in the United States, and they're going to give between 1% and 4%. And as a matter of fact, it's more closer to 1% and 2%. However, we'll deal with that another time. And then I say to you, you have to borrow your own money. So if you want the money, you have to borrow it, not just go to the bank and take it out. You got to borrow it. Now, and then I said, if you should pass away, God forbid, I'm going to keep all your cash. I'm going to keep the cash that you've been putting in. How many of you would join my bank? The panel, how many would join my back on the panel?
Nobody.
Not
Nobody.
me.
Yes.
Nobody.
Not me.
Exactly. Now, to the question that was asked about the bundling. Now, why is it that 80% of Canadians who own life insurance own this, what I just described to you? And that is called the bundling concept. That is called whole life insurance. Dave Ramsey will tell you, and all the experts will tell you, there's no, if you go to the library and pick up a book on insurance, there's not one insurance that will tell you that whole life insurance is the best thing for you. The only people that will propagate this fast are the insurance agents that sell it and the companies that want them to sell it. So in terms of bundling, to the person that asked the question, you should never ever bundle your savings and your insurance. It's a no-no, point blank. Go to Dave Ramsey, go on YouTube and watch him. He'll tell you exactly that. Do not bundle your life insurance. Have your life insurance separate, which is cheap, very low cost, term insurance, and then invest somewhere else in a good mutual fund or something that will take you to your retirement safely.
Thank you so much, sir. We have about 20 minutes in the show. I'm coming to the co-host. Co-host, you have some questions. Go right ahead. Ella Muir, I'm coming to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bryan. My question to you, sir, is, I'm from a culture where many persons, they are not so informed as to how insurance really can benefit them, and many persons think that when you think about life insurance, you're thinking about death, so it does not benefit them per se. How do you reach a person like this to have them understand the importance of life insurance? Because persons really want like critical illness and things like those that they can see the benefit. How do you approach that, sir?
Very good question again, Elder. Very good question, sir. And I'm going to tell another little story. I love to tell stories. So again, we don't understand the importance of life insurance until somebody dies, Elder. So I went in 2014. I went to a young lady. I went to, she was my client. And so I went to her to deal with her life insurance and some other issues. And so her son, who was 24 at the time, this was, I believe it was in February of 2014. And I went to his house, to the lady's house, and her son was downstairs in the basement. And I said to her, go call your son. And I said to him, at the time, $500,000 would have cost him, I think it was, if my memory serves me correct, I think it was $38 or somewhere close to $40 a month. $500,000 worth of life insurance. He had 2 young children. And he was 24 years old. You know what he said to me? He said, oh, I'm young and I'm strong. I'm young and I'm strong so I can work and take care of my children. I said, well, yeah, that might be so. You might be young and strong and you can take care of your children. But I said, do you know your date of death? He said, no, but that don't matter. I said, again, Elder Muir, it doesn't matter until someone dies. So that was 2014. 2015, I was driving down the highway to go somewhere. Someone called me and she said, my son is dead. I said, what do you mean your son is dead? 25 years old now. It's 1 year later. So my son is dead. I said, what do you mean he's dead? She said, he went to Sunnybrook for a procedure and he never left the hospital. I bring that up, Elder Muir, because you see, in our culture, and I mean, that's why I'm so grateful for this platform and grateful for people like all of you on the platform, Dr. Bryan and HGG Radio, for bringing this to the forefront and bringing awareness to this. Because in our culture, I've heard over the years that folks are saying, Elder Muir, that pastors have been telling over the years, saying that we don't need life insurance, God will take care of us. Now, again, so to get past that and to bridge that gap, to get past that kind of thinking, Elder Muir, things like these are vitally important, where we bring awareness to the body of Christ, that folks will understand that insurance is vitally important. Again, you're not going to know the importance of it, Elder Muir, until someone passes away. Right? So back to the point. So there's a gentleman that was at our company, Elder Muir, and he was in the company for years before I got there at that point. And I said to him, you have life insurance? He said, Devon, I'm a child of God. And I said, so am I. And he did not buy life insurance. He told his family that when he passed away, he said, "Go talk to the pastor and he will bury me." And that caused a great deal of strife. The young man that I told you about, that caused a great deal of strife because he came to the church. He came to the church. The family members came to the church because they had no money to bury the gentleman, the young man. And so, Pastor Elamir, we need to get this thing in the open that folks will understand. So folks have said, like you mentioned earlier, that, well, I'm dead and gone. Somebody's going to bury me. But what about your children that live? The Bible says, a good man leaveth an inheritance for his children. Now, if you're young, like this young man was, he could have left a $5,000 inheritance for them. So the final thing I'll say on that, Elamir, is that we need to educate the folks. Let them realize how important it is. We can show them what the experts are saying. We can show them how many people have died and they're well taken care of. Now they have a great estate to plan because they understood the importance of life insurance.
Thank you so much, Ella. We're going to come to you for a final question in terms of, we'll want you to work a scenario, because oftentimes people are saying, I don't have enough money to buy insurance. When things get better, when I'm seeing financial freedom, we'll call it, or at a better place, we want you to draw for us a scenario. For example, a young man, because I know insurance for men is much more expensive than that of women. So I want you to draw a scenario for men in that age, the same age bracket as the young man, maybe 25 years old, don't smoke, and non-smoker, that has no medical history that he'll know of, and what is the cheapest insurance that he can pay in terms of the cheapest money that he can pay monthly, and what is the amount of coverage that he'll have in terms of dollar value and maybe an insurance component. Drop something up for us, just so our listeners can get a better understanding of you can pay $20 each month, and from $20 you can have 400, whatever it is. Draw for us a component of that, and so that we can have a look at that. Pastor Clive, I'm sure you, when it comes to insurance, Pastor Clive love insurance. This is his topic. Yeah, he loves insurance and making sure things are in place. I am sure he's burning up over there with questions. So we are going to go to Pastor Clive. Pastor Clive, we're coming to you.
All right. So first thing I want to say to the listeners that let's not feel scared about acquiring these things. First thing first. You need to sit down with a financial planner. My wife she does a good job. I'm not saying to call my wife now, but find and also start to listen to tapes. You can find Dave Ramsey online. Start to listen to these things, because they have a saying that says a birds of a feather flock together. If you sit with people who have nothing, when we're dead, people are going to take care of me. That's what you're going to have. Listen what the Bible says, and Rev, you quoted earlier. A good man leave an inheritance to his children. In other words, you have to leave something. If you're trying to break a cycle, generational poverty, so forth and so on. When I grew up, I grew up poor, beneath poor. And I make up in my mind from I start having children. My son is 31, and when he was 4 years old, I had insurance so that just in case something happened to me. 4 years old, I started to have his college funds from he was 4 years old as well. So when it was time for my children, my right now my son is 31, so of course he would have gone through, and then my two daughters are in college, and I don't have to sweat trying to think where I'm going to get money, so forth and so on. So you have to sit down with yourself sometime, start to listen to people about how am I going to create that generational wealth. Now, I wasn't working a lot of money, but what I had done is to cut back some of my habits, McDonald's habits and my Tim Hortons habits, and cut back some habits, because you have to discipline yourself to be able to achieve what you want for your children, the sacrifice that you do. Now, back to the insurance. Now, the insurance, like your children don't have let me just say it. I don't know how to go around the bush, to be honest with you.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this. It looks bad when somebody die and we have to put up GoFundMe.
Absolutely.
Looks horrible. Let's break that generational cycle of we doing these things by putting away, and you can get insurances as low or based on your age group, and the younger you are is the less you pay, so forth and so on. So when you reach to that age, you may not need it for another 40 years or 50 years, and you wonder to yourself, where all that money go? That money will go to your children, or you have your beneficiaries that it goes. It may not go to you may not have a child, or but you have somebody who the money goes to. But that little savings, you'll be surprised what that $27. Back in the day, I was paying $27 until afterwards, the term had to change, and then we set it, and then where it's at now. So we have got to break the generational cycle. And the other nation of people are doing it. It's just we as Black folks are not doing what we need to do to our children. We have seen other people, and they send their children to school, and when the children grow up, when they die, you see their children just can afford this and that, and our children still struggle. The struggle is not my portion, and I don't want it to be my children's portion. But you have to make up in your mind that you need to break that cycle.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that, Pastor. Thank you for Pastor Clive Atkinson. Rev, we're coming to you for the scenario, and then I have a question. Then we'll go to where to find you. We have about 9 minutes. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. So to your question, so I'll just give you an example here. So let's say a male male
in his mid-20s.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
non-smoker.
Right, non-smoker, age 25, non-smoker, for 35-year term. 400,000 will cost that individual $34. Well, $35, $34.75 a month. Now, I would say
how much a month, Rev?
$34.75 for 400,000.
For $400,000. That's
Yes.
Canadian or Jamaican dollar? I'm just asking.
For Canadian listeners, it's 34 Canadian dollars, and it give you 400,000 Canadian dollars.
Give you how much Jamaican dollar is that? I'm just asking. Because we have listeners all over the world. So
it's about 3,600 roughly Jamaican dollars, I'll say.
And then how much thousand how much
in Jamaica? We're roughly in about 4 million, 4 point something million.
And it costs you 34.
How much billion you're talking?
Million, sir. We don't reach billion.
Million, yeah.
Million.
Yeah. 4, 3 or 4. So,
yes.
But all you got to do is skip one McDonald's.
Yes, sir.
A week.
Yes, sir.
Or KFC. That's so easy. When my wife and I, we sit down and we do a budget, and the first time she sat down with me, Elder, I'm coming back to you, and she said, we're going to go over the budget. And she said, Clive, you have $75 for the week, or for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
$75. What you do with it, it's up to you. Mm-hmm. You have $150 for the month to do whatever you want to do. If you want any little treat or anything, that's what you have. You have to be disciplined. So I have to cut back, and I have to, I thought I was doing great, but when I sat down with my wife, she was doing better. So guess what? She is the financial person in the home, and I just leave it and trust her, and I've seen where God is doing it. So go ahead, sir. Let us know. I'm just putting in that out there so that it sounds as if it's a lot of money, but when you really look at it in actuality, all you need to do is cut back on some things.
Absolutely, and I totally agree, Pastor Atkinson. I totally agree in that many of us, we spend, when we look at the budget, and one of the things that we do is, well, we have what we call a financial needs analysis. So most of the time they'll tell you that you'll need at least maybe 5 to 10% your salary in terms of insurance, right? And so we do what we call a financial needs analysis. And so we go over everything. So you tell us exactly where you spend. You tell us what you earn and so on and so forth. We put together a plan tailor-made for you, that individual. And we'll say, well, okay, they will tell you that this the amount of insurance that you need based on what you earn and based on what you spend and so on. So we do that for them. And then as Ron was saying earlier regarding the budget, that's also in the package where you can do that. So that's tailor-made for you. You can go over that. But again, back to your question, Dr. Bryan, we talk about insurance and again, folks, the reason why we don't, again, to the person that asked earlier about the bundling, the reason why we don't bundle is what our concept is. We believe in buying term and investing the difference. And that term came about as a result of buying whole life insurance. Because if you were to buy whole life insurance for $400,000, even at 25 years old, that would cost you 60-70% more than it's costing you now for the term life insurance. So what we do is we take the bundling concept out of it, and we say, well, okay, so if you're paying $150 for 400,000 or $200 for 400,000, we can give it for $30. You save $170. We put that in an investment for you, and then back to Sister Sophie's question about later on in life when your investment is growing, you don't need that much life insurance. You can cut back on it if you so desire. So, and we can give you more numbers. I mean, time is of the essence. So
of course,
numbers, but those are just one example.
Thank you so much. Real quick, Sophie, have this question. She said, I didn't get the answer about the critical illness. She asked a question, I think, earlier about the critical illness. Do you recommend this on top of life insurance? Yes, no, maybe so. Quick explanation.
Right. Well, I didn't get that question earlier, but yes. So a lot of people now are bought into critical illness insurance, and I don't have a problem recommending it. Now, in terms of our policies that we sell in our company, it comes with a terminal illness benefit. So if say, for instance, you were to buy life insurance here, and let's say, for argument's sake, 40% of that insurance, let's say it was 500,000, so 40% of it, you'll get that up front. And so you can take that money and go and spend that money if you had a terminal illness. So if you had critical illness, I wouldn't tell you to get rid of it, but I would say you have terminal illness here, so why pay for the two? When that is a part of the policy, by the way, you get 40% of the policy up front, so you can go and take care of what you have to take care of, instead of, say, buying it on its own. But I have clients that do own critical illness, and we, in one of our companies, we market that as well, but not for the life insurance.
So in other words, you recommend that you purchase it on top of your life insurance, or you do recommend? So it is okay to purchase it on top, or is it already involved in your life insurance?
Well, in our policy, yes, we have the terminal illness benefit, so you can have that embedded into the policy.
Embedded into the policy. Sure. Right. Elamir, you have a final question for our panelists, and then we'll go to where we can find Devin Goldburn. And just to remind you, Devin Goldburn is the assistant pastor of Refuge City Pentecostal Church in Ajax, and you can find him at refugecity.ca. Elamir.
Oh, no,
You're
I'm
good.
okay.
Bishop, coming to you, any question before we wrap?
Yes. Term life insurance. If you, I don't know how much time, maybe another around 2.
Yes.
But term life insurance isn't it only for, as its name is term life? So after a certain age or it reach its term, are no longer insured, and all that money that you spend is basically disappear.
Mm-hmm.
If you could just speak on that, and basically how do we get over or through that? That
okay.
will help us.
Very, very good question again, Bishop. Very good question. And so, again, if we go back to the first question that was asked, if we have term insurance, people ask you, why buy term insurance? Well, it only goes for a term, period. So let's say, for argument's sake, in this scenario that we just mentioned, that Dr. Bryan asked a question, the 25-year-old was paying $35 a month. If that person were to take another $65 or $100 that would have been paying for the whole life insurance anyhow, took that and put it in an investment. That's why we don't recommend you just buy term life insurance. It's buy term and invest, the difference. So you buy the term insurance, which would benefit your family with the higher amount if you die, and then the investment, which will be growing. So you can't have one without the other. A bird can't fly on one wing, so you have to have both of them, and that would answer the question as it relates to that.
Got you. Very good answer.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have reached the our time. Thank you so much. We want to thank everyone for listening to us live on HGG Radio. We want to thank you for joining us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. Yes, and make it nice and loud for Devon Goldburn that joined us today and talk about insurance. Yes. And I'm sure that's something that you've said I've really blessed you and really empower you. And we want to thank you so very much. Thanks to all our listeners that join us from near and far, from Jamaica, from New Jersey, from Georgia, from England, from, did I say Jamaica, Antigua, all over here in Canada. I mean, it is so wide. Our listeners, a lot of our listeners who have joined us on Facebook, on YouTube, on hggradio.com, or by downloading the app somewhere on our app and they're listening. I do want to thank you so very much to all my friends and listeners, all my family members that are here online. Thank you so very much for joining us yet another exciting episode. New Jersey, I see you in the house. I know there are so many questions that are still coming in. Reverend Devon Goldburn, just before we go, sir, in the last few seconds, tell us quickly where we can find you before we wrap the show. You're muted, sir. Go again.
Oh, sorry, sir. So I'll give you my phone number. It's 905
905
767
yes
8021. And again, you can reach me anywhere. You can go to my email and you can reach me there. And then you can go to the church and you can reach me there. So anywhere you can reach me. I can talk to all my friends and you can reach me there as well. And call you, Dr. Bryan, and you can reach me there as well.
There you go. So you can find him at refugecity.ca. You can find him at 905-767-8021. You can find him there. Thank you so much. Colleen said, very interesting program. So many people are chiming in, and we do want to thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Reverend Devon Goldburn, for making it here on HGG Radio. Thank you for blessing us with your presence on this morning. And I believe that we are tremendously blessed. A lot of folks are saying, it's such an informative program. And of course, we just want to empower the generation that we can do things differently. So again, we want to say big thank you for Minister Devon Goldburn, Reverend Devon Goldburn, for joining in, and also for Ron Walker, Wealth Manager of RBC Dominion Security, and Reverend Goldburn, Regional Leader in Insurance for Prime America. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another exciting episode, a thought-provoking episode here on the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We do invite you to join us next week, where we'll have two women educators who are winning in their field and empowering the next generation. Dr. Cheryl McClyman, professor at Morris County College and president of Beyond the Borders Mission, and Nadia Nemard Hunt, vice principal and author, that will be joining us to tell us how they are winning in their field. Listeners, we are hearing you. Even though it's Iron Man Empowerment Show, yes, we're bringing two ladies to tell us how they're winning in their field. Of course, it's all about empowering the next generation. You can't afford to miss this one. So until next week, we love you for listening and have yourself a great day. Remember, on the Iron Man Empowerment Show, we're not just talk, we're informative. Have a great one. Take care. Bye. Join us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, where we discuss matters close to the heart. This and every Saturday at 8 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on HGG Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, alongside your co-host, Pastor Clive Atkinson, Bishop Hopeton Morris, and Elder Edmund Muir. The Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We're not just talk, we're informative.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning right here on HGG Radio. What a blessing this morning. I just want to thank God for those that joined us this morning on AGG Radio. Thank you for joining us on in the Ironman Empowerment Show. And of course, our Ironman podcast. I want to thank you. Join us next week, same time, same place. This is where we pull things down on Facebook, on YouTube. But if you have not downloaded the app, you can go right now over to the app. Stay with me until around 10 a.m. We'll be playing some music and just get your worship on.